Lather and Nothing Else is a short story written by Hernando Tellez. It is told in first person by a barber who is secretly a revolutionary and follows the events starting from when the captain of the military enters into his shop for a shave until the time that he leaves. The barber is a secret informant for the rebels, since he can easily report the captain's activity from simply looking out the window of his shop. He knows when Captain Torres and his military go on raids and is able to alert fellow rebels. To start the story, Captain Torres, the violent leader of the military regime, walks into the barber shop for a shave after returning from a 4-day trip of catching rebels. He boasts to the barber how they brought back 14 rebels. Some were dead and some were alive, but assured him that they would all be dead soon. The barber was so nervous he was shaking since he had the enemy in his shop. His people would expect nothing less for him to kill Torres since he has done so much harm to them, so the story surrounds the person versus self conflict of the barber trying to decide whether or not to kill Torres. He weighs the pros and cons and goes over all the brutal things Torres has done, and he describes how easy it would be to kill him. I could cut his throat, so swish, swish. He wouldn't even have time to moan, and with his eyes shut, he wouldn't even see the shine of the razor or the gleam in my eye. Page 3. All of this was in efforts to convince himself to kill Torres. What made things even worse was the fact that Torres was almost inciting the barber by telling him about the firing party he was going to have later that night. Ultimately, the barber decided not to kill Torres. I do my work honorably. I do not want to stain my hands with blood, just with lather and nothing else. You are an executioner. I am only a barber. Each one to his job. That's it. Each one to his job. Page 4. This is the climax of the story, since previous to this, the story was building up to this final decision. It is easily assumed that the captain was unaware that the barber was a rebel, because the barber was supposed to be a secret informant. It is not until the very last sentence that the captain says, "They told me you would kill me. I came to find out if this was true. But it is not easy to kill. I know what I'm talking about." Page 4. From this you know that the captain knew before even walking in that the barber was a rebel. This huge twist at the end made me think. This is because everything leading up to this moment made me think that the captain was unaware that the barber was a rebel. If the captain knew, why didn't he arrest and kill the barber like he did to all the other rebels? Why did he willingly let a rebel hold a razor to his neck when he was completely unarmed? Why would he give gruesome details about the killing of his fellow comrades when he was in such a vulnerable position? The captain says he knows it's not easy to kill, but why would he take that risk? He doesn't personally know the barber. He doesn't know what the barber is capable of. I have never been in a life or death situation like this. The theme of this story is something that applies to everyone, no matter who you are. I would say the theme is that the future is in your hands. This is because one of the major deciding factors of the barber not killing Torres was the fact that if he did, he would have to run away. He said, "I would have to flee, leave all this behind, take shelter far away. Very far away. But they would follow until they caught up with me." Page 4. He knew that for his actions, there were consequences. I can relate to this because with every action I make, I understand the outcomes of them, good or bad. For example, if I don't do my homework, chances are I'm not going to do very well on the test. Because of this, I do my homework. Another example would be knowing that if I go to the gym, I will be in good shape and play well in hockey. But if I'm lazy and decide not to, this results in me playing poorly and letting down my team. There are two major characters in Lather and Nothing Else, the barber and Captain Torres. This is because they are the only two that contribute to the development of the story as well as the conflict of the story. As previously mentioned, Captain Torres is the violent captain of the military regime, and the barber is a confidential informant for the rebels. The barber is a man who takes great pride in his work and is extremely careful throughout the story not to make a single pore on the captain's face bleed. He knows his place in life. He is no coward and makes an honest day's work by cutting hair. Torres is a brave military captain who makes the point that even he himself does not find it easy to kill. You would think that he does, based on the frequency and ease at which he speaks about killing, but he makes it clear that he does not just kill the rebels for fun, rather to regain control of his country, since that is what his job is to do. Part of what makes this story so great is the abundance of literary elements that it has, from similes to metaphors, as well as imagery and symbolism. It is as hot as the devil, page 1. Captain Torres compares the weather outside to the temperature of the devil, which is hot. Another simile said by the barber is, blood would go flowing along the floor, warm, indelible, not to be staunched, until it reaches the street like a small scarlet river. That's page 4. This simile is comparing the flow of blood that would happen if the barber slit Torres's throat to a small scarlet river. Others and others still keep coming, and the first kill the second, and then these to the next, and so on until everything becomes a sea of blood. Page 3. This metaphor, used by the barber, is when he is thinking about what would happen if he killed Torres. He is saying that if he kills Torres, a new captain would come into place, and would he be expected to kill him too? In his mind, if he killed Torres, it would likely lead to him killing even more people in the future, which he metaphorically compares to being a sea of blood. An example of imagery from this story would be seeing to that the blade did not slip into the small whorls, taking care that the skin was left clean, soft, and shining, so that when I passed the back of my hand over it, not a single hair should be felt. And that's page 2. This is said by the barber in regards to how well he is going to shave the captain. It is obvious that he takes great pride in his work. And this specifically gives you a very clear visual of the captain's cleanly shaved face. The biggest symbol in this story is the razor that the barber is using to shave Torres. This is because the intended use of the razor is to shave someone, but it could also be used to slash someone's throat and kill them. The barber is struggling with this decision throughout the entire story and says, I could turn my wrist slightly, put a bit more pressure on the blade, and let it sink in. There is nothing more tender than a man's skin, and the blood is always there, ready to burst forth. A razor like this cannot fail. It is the best one I have. Page 4. The razor is the barber's means of killing the captain, and without its presence, the story would be very different. It does not explicitly say where this story is set, but based on certain clues throughout the story, you can infer that it is set in a barber shop somewhere in Latin America, most likely Colombia. You can infer this because the captain of the military regime's last name is Torres, which is a Hispanic name. Also, the author of this story, Hernando Tellez, is a Colombian who was alive between 1908 and 1966. During his lifetime, Colombia went through many civil wars and military dictatorships, so it is likely that he was writing based on his own personal experiences. Hernando Tellez was a Colombian author and journalist who was born in the capital of Colombia, Bogota. He worked for one of the biggest newspaper companies in the country and later served in the Congress of Colombia. In 1950, he published his short story collection, Cenizas para el Viento, which contained the story Lather and Nothing Else. This was by far his most well-known piece of writing from his entire career.